All right, welcome everybody. So today we're talking about the quadratic formula. This is probably the hardest lesson that we'll be doing in Algebra 1, just because of some of the aspects that you guys need to understand and the links of the math that you need to do. So if I slur my speech during today's lesson, just please understand that it's been a long day already. I've taught this lesson a couple times today, speaking throughout the whole thing, so I apologize if I misspeak. So let's begin. Quadratic formula. Big thing. Okay, we did completing the square. Now sometimes, ladies and gentlemen, you can't really solve anything, and so what you want to do is the last ditch hope is to use the quadratic formula. My goal in this class is for you guys to use it quite frequently, which I didn't tell everybody that yet, but you can use it to solve basically anything and make it so that you guys can be highly successful if you're not given a calculator or Desmos. In class, I had everybody turn to page 606. Okay, if you have a book at home, please turn it to page 606. Within that, on that page, it talks about taking the standard form of the equation and transforming it. That was a little creepy. Transforming it to this equation right here. Okay, so what they do is they start off by dividing both sides by a. Then they subtract CA from both sides. They complete the square, simplify the right side, factor the left. What's the next step? Find a common denominator. Whole bunch of stuff. But what they're doing is they're trying to solve for x by incorporating everything that we would know. So we're trying to solve for x. Now, usually there are two values of x. So if we are trying to solve for x, the key thing I need to make sure you understand is this plus or minus right here. What that means is there are two equations. But instead of us writing out negative b plus b squared and writing out x equals negative b minus, and then it'd be b squared, and you keep writing it out like that. Instead of writing out two separate ones, you write it out in one equation until you get to a point where you're done simplifying. Once you're done simplifying, then you split the equation in two, where it'd be this value plus this value, and this value minus this value. Okay, so hopefully you guys understand that, and let's begin. So I put up here on my board, this is the negative b plus or minus. So please understand that. So let's move along here. So first thing you got to do is set this up as ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0. That's our main goal. This doesn't have it, so you got to subtract 35 from both sides. X squared minus 2x minus 35 equals 0. A big key aspect with this, if you got the notes from me in class, I did not give you enough space. So you need to go all the way to the left-hand side if you can, because in the books, it shows you how to solve these, and it takes up like half the page. So I'll fix the notes for next year, so I apologize for cramming in such a small amount. By the way, this is an ultra-long lesson, so if you get bored at any time, pause, skip to where you need to go from there. First thing you need to do is tell me what your A, B, and your C coordinates are. So A for this one is 1. It is not x squared, it is the number in front of it. B is negative 2. C would be negative 35 right here. So now that you have these, you take these numbers and you plug it into this quadratic equation. So you take your B value. And this is the only time I'm going to show you this extensive as well, detail. So it'll be minus, because it's a minus B, so it's minus B, which would be negative 2. Then it's plus or minus the square root of b squared. So once again, b is negative 2. We're going to square it. Minus 4, and then it's going to be times a, which in this case is 1. So it's 1. And then it's times c, which is negative 35. And that is all over 2 times a. All right, when you don't have a 1 in front, this equation is a lot easier to solve. I'm not going to show you this half of the equation. I'm only going to do one of them. If you would like to try this one, you can. And then we'll talk about how you can find the answer as well. Okay, so now you simplify. just for that reason, let me erase that, because I do have some students that would like to solve for it, and I'm more than happy to do that. Negative and a negative is positive. This would be 4. And then it's going to be negative 4 times 1 times negative 35. Okay, so hopefully you guys understand that. Negative 4, so negative 4 times 1, which I'm doing it anyways, times negative 35. You hit enter, you get 140. It's positive 140. All divided by 2. You can simplify this again. Add these together. So it's 2 plus or minus square root of 144 all over 2. Can you simplify that? This is a perfect square. Or it's a perfect square root. 2 plus or minus, I think it's 12. I've been doing it all day, but I don't want to screw this up. Yes. 12 divided by 2. From this point, ladies and gentlemen, you split this equation in 2. Okay, so we have it to here. Now you rewrite it as 2. So it's 2 plus 12, and then it's going to be 2 minus 12. So you simplify this. 14 over 2, which equals 7. There's one value. Negative 10 over 2, negative 5. There's your second value. Is there a simpler way to do this? Of course there is. Okay, and that would be to use Desmos. But one thing I need to make sure you guys understand is if I present these worksheets to you and I say, solve these with no technology, can you do it? I need to make sure that you can. And I actually will make sure that you can in class. Okay, we haven't talked about it yet, but that's going to be a huge thing that we're going to be doing on Friday, is we're going to be doing a worksheet related to it. A simple way of doing this would be to, of course, go into Desmos and do it. So on this one here, I'm going to put that other equation, is x squared. So if you have not done it yet, I'm going to show it to you right now. Where did I put my form here? Grab the notes. Instead of going back and forth. All right, if you want to pause the video, you can. But x squared plus x minus 30. Okay, that is what this is right here. And if you were to do the math and get all out, the values would be negative 6 and 5. So this one here, x equals negative 6 and 5. Remember, sometimes though, it's not about how you get there. It's not about the end result. Sometimes I need to know how you get there. All right, next, ladies and gentlemen, we had quite a few that we did in class. Not going to do 1C because that one's too simple for you. Instead, I want you to move on to 1A. So on 1A, we need to set these values up. Okay, so A equals 2, B equals 9, and C equals, well, it's supposed to equal 0. So you guys subtract 18 from both sides to get this to be what? 0. So my C value is negative 18. Now you can set your equation up, okay? Your equation for a quadratic is, don't forget, I'll write it again, negative b plus or minus square root of b squared minus 4 times AC all over 2a. All right, so let's set that up. My b value is, it's a negative, and it's 9, plus or minus the square root, b squared, which would be 81, minus, and then it's going to be 4 times 2 times negative 18, all divided by 4. Okay, 2 times 2 is 4. You set these up, same thing in a calculator. Okay, you put negative 4. So one thing you guys need to do is make sure you can use a calculator for most of these. Okay, so I'm going to go negative 4 times that by 2, and then I'm going to times that again by negative 18. Okay, when you do that, I'd get 144 plus 81 ends up being 225. I just did the simple math in order of the correct order of operations. Okay, take the square root, it's going to be negative 9 plus or minus 15 over 4. We're done simplifying. Now we got to split it. All right, once you split this equation in half, split it into two pieces, okay? Now when you split it up, it's going to be negative 9 plus 15 over 4, and it's going to be negative 9, oh, let me give more space than that. Negative 9 minus 15 over 4. Okay, so now do your math. All right, this one's set up, it's pretty nice. It's going to be 6 over 4, which can be reduced. So make sure you guys finish it off to 3 over 2. This one here is going to be negative 24 over 4, which can be reduced to negative 6. So there are my two answers. All right, can you check this in Desmos? Yes, you can. The problem with Desmos is that everything is presented to you in decimal form, okay? So you won't see 3 over 2. You won't even see negative 6. But what you will see is, and let me see if I put this one on here. If I didn't yet, nope, let me do it later. What you will see is, what is the decimal equivalent of 3 over 2? Which would be what? If you guys don't know, the decimal equivalent is 1.5. Desmos has a feature. If you put a decimal in that is not a repeating decimal, that has a definitive end, for example, 1.5, 1.25, okay? You can put it in, and as it stands right now, they have a new functionality that I didn't see last year, but I saw this year, which is you have a little fraction button. If you click that, it gives you the fraction. Now, it doesn't work when, like if you were to do 1/3. 1/3 is a repeating 3 forever. If you put that in here, you would actually get the 3 and the 10s. And no matter how many 3s you have, so if I decided to get rid of a couple 3s, you can see the fraction starts to shrink. But if I get to 0.3, it's never going to actually be 1/3. And if I have too many 3s, the fraction disappears, and you don't have the option to do a fraction anymore. So no, it works. This functionality works if it's a complete ending decimal. Okay, that's just a little tidbit going forward that you could use on any of the standardized testing. All right, so next setup here, you have your answers. I'll back away in case you need to write these down, but I do need to erase them. What I want you to do now is focus on answering 1B or 1D. Okay, pick whichever one you want to do, and then, ladies and gentlemen, I'll come in and show you the answers in a second. All right, 1B. My setup here on 1B is as follows. A equals negative 3, B equals 5, and then C is going to be 2 because that's on the wrong side of the equation. Do your setup. Negative 5 plus or minus. Sorry, my 5s are looking like S's. It's going to be 25 minus 4 times negative 3 times 2 all over 2 times negative 6. 2 times negative 3, right? You do the setup. Oh, let me get my equation back. Multiply it out. 4 times 3 is 12. Negative and a negative is positive. Plus 2 is 24. So it's negative 5 plus or minus the square root 25 plus 24 all over negative 6, which this is negative 5 plus or minus 49 over negative 6. Solve it one last time to 7. And then, ladies and gentlemen, splinter it off. Okay? You splinter it off, it's negative 5 plus 7 and negative 5 minus 7. Solve it out. So this is going to end up being negative 5 plus 7 would be 2 over negative 6, which ends up being negative 1/3. That's the repeating 3 comes into place. Okay, this one here would be negative 12 over negative 6. Simplify that. Your answer would be 2. 1D. Hopefully you guys got that. If you did 1D, I'm not going to answer that one on here. I'm just going to graph it instead. Okay, so it's going to end up being, let me turn this graph off. It's going to end up being 3x squared. 3x squared. And then it is plus 2x minus 1. Okay, you don't have to put the 0 because unless you want to, but what am I going? So it's -1, and then look, there's that 0.333. So I know that in decimal form, I know what that fraction is. So for this one here, your answer is x equals -1, x equals -1 and 1/3. Okay? You guys have any questions on that? Let me know. Okay. If you tried that 1D and that's what you got, good, you did it right. If not, please let me know and we can talk. All right, so this is another tricky part. What happens, ladies and gentlemen, if it is not perfect? So what you'd want to do is you have to set these up appropriately. So this one, A, B, C. All right, the A value is 2, B is -2, C is -5. I never did this one in class, so we're going to do this one also. So I'll change color to red. A is going to be 5, B is going to be -8, and C is going to be -4. Okay, because you got to subtract 4 from both sides. So when I get to this point, if you guys want to pause the video and try both of these out on your own, please do at any time. Okay. The reason I do these in videos is to help you guys if you struggle. But it'd be great if I knew that most of you could do these on your own. All right, so my equation once again is -b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. All right, so there's my setup. Now we just fill in the blanks. So negative and a negative creates a positive. And then this is 4 because -2 squared is that, minus 4 times 2 times -5. All over 4. So it'd be 2 plus or minus. Now, I'm going to do all this math in my head. So let's work on this. So, knowing this, -4 times -5 is 20. 20 times 2 is 40. So it would be 4 plus 40 all over 4. Or it'd be 2 plus or minus square root of 44 all over 4. So a struggle we had in class is, are we done? No, we're not. So this is where it gets a little tricky for you guys. Can you simplify this square root? That's what you need to worry about. We want to look for divisions of 4, 9, 16, 25, 36. You get the gist. Can you divide a 4 into there? Factor it out. The answer is yes, you can. If you did, this would be 2 plus or minus the square root of 4 times the square root of 11 all over 4. Okay? You guys should be able to see that. All right, and then, let me not do red, do purple. And then, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to take it down here. So now what you want to do is focus on this. What is the square root? 2 plus or minus 2. Square root of 11, all divided by 4. Can you simplify it one more time? If I were to split this equation up, okay, you don't have to do this, but it would be 2 over 4 plus or minus 2 square root of 11 over 4. Is this and this the same thing? The answer is yes, it is. Common denominators, you can split the equations up. So can they be simplified? And the answer is yes, it can. This would be 1/2, and then it's plus or minus. This would be 2, 4. You could reduce this again. So, ladies and gentlemen, your answer set up for this one would be 1 plus it's been a long day. 2. Okay, hopefully you guys can understand why. This is 1/2, plus or minus. This is 1/2, so you reduce that, and so here would be your answer. Now, technically it's 2 answers, right? It's 1 plus or minus 11. The question then becomes is, why do I need to know this? AC Merit will present answers to you that look like this. Can you use Desmos to answer this? Technically, yes, you can, and let me show you how. In AZ Merit, they're going to provide you answers, and they're going to, here's your graph. It's going to say graph this. Let me turn this graph off. When you graph it, here's your graph, and it's going to come up with 2.158. That is not a whole answer. You won't be provided a decimal on the AZ Merit. Instead, you're going to give it usually 4 multiple choice, and even the ACT, 4 multiple choice questions. What you need to do is take those multiple choice questions, put them into decimals right next to it. So I put on here 1, if I go, so let me change this, if this was, one of your answers was 2 plus. 2 plus the square root of 11 divided by 2, that equals 2.658. That is not even close. It's close, but that's not the right answer. Our answers that we got when we did this are 1 plus. So, ladies and gentlemen, change this to a 1. Turn this graph point back on, and what do you get? 2.158, 2.158. Can you use Desmos and get the answer? Yes, you can. Okay, you can even take this symbol and you can subtract it. If I subtract it, I would get negative 1.158, and that's what the other point is. So please understand, you can use Desmos, but you have to be able to interpret the answers and think outside the box. Remember, my job as your teacher is to make sure that you can solve problems. You're solving math problems now. When you're done with high school, will you solve math problems? Most of you won't, unless you have a budget, which is always a math problem. Okay, knowing whether you can survive on what you make is a math problem. But I need to make sure you guys can do troubleshooting aspects, okay? That is the main goal that I have for you. So let's go back to our work here, all right? So there's our answer. Now let's work on the other one. Now, all day I never solved this one all day, so this will be the first time I do this one, so let's hope I get it right. So negative and negative is going to be 8, and it's going to be plus or minus square root of b squared, so it's going to be this again, which would be 64, minus 4 times a, which is 5, times negative 4. Sorry, that went a little weird on me. And then it's going to be time over 10. 5 times 2 is 10, okay? Knowing this right here. All right, now we just do our simple math, right? So 4 times 4, so let me do this. This would be, since I haven't done this one all day, I know it's going to be 64, and it's going to end up being a plus. So 4 times 5 is negative 20. Negative 20 times 4 is going to be positive 80, all divided by 10. So if I go 64 plus 80 is 144. Ooh, nice. So I know 144 is 12, so this is going to be 8 plus or minus the square root of 144 over 10. And this comes out to be 8 plus or minus 12 over 10. So my fractions here should end up being 8 plus 12 over 10 and 8 minus 12 over 10. So this one is 20 over 10, which is 2. All right, hopefully you guys see that. And this one here would be negative 4 over 10, which would be equivalent of negative 2 over 5. So, ladies and gentlemen, let me see if we got this right. So I got one answer is 2, the other one is negative 2 over 5. Let's put it in decimals and find out if we are right or if I am completely wrong. All right, you can actually write it just like it sits. 5x squared minus 8x, and then it's going to be equals 4. Okay, you can set it just like this, and there we get our answers. 2, and I get a negative 0.04. So if I go over here and I go negative 0.4, and I put this button on there, what is the fraction equivalent of that? Negative 2 over 5, which that's exactly what I got. Okay, hopefully you guys saw that. All right, everybody understand what I did? I graphed it. You don't have to change anything up with decimals. That's kind of the cool thing about this app, okay, that you guys have. Sometimes you don't have to solve it. I got my point of 2, my other one of negative 0.4. I put in negative 0.4. I clicked the fraction button. It gave me 2/5, and that is exactly what I got there. So see how it works? All right, what I want you guys to do is please go ahead and try these on your own, and then we'll go from there. All right, same thing, guys. With this one here, your setup would be A equals 4, B is negative 24, and C is 35. Okay, this one over here, A is 3, B is negative 2, C is negative 9. All right, then when you're set up on this side over here, you're going to be, remember it is negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. All right, when you set this up, it's going to be 24 because that's negative plus or minus square root of 24 squared. Now make sure on these calculators, guys, that if you do this, that you know a negative and a negative is positive, even if you don't put it in the calculator right. 576 minus 4 times 4 times negative 35. Okay, if you put that all in, and it's over 8. So your setup now would be 24 plus or minus. Now I've been doing this all day, so I know that this all added out. Oh wait, that's not negative, sorry. I'm like, wait, that's supposed to be positive. All right, I do know I've been doing this all day. So I know if I take 4 times 4 is negative 16, multiply by 35, you're going to get 576 minus 560 all over 8. So you would have 24 plus or minus the square root of 16 over 8. You go 24 plus or minus 4 over 8, and then you split the equation. So it would be 24 plus 4, and then it would be 24 minus 4. All right, and then you do your setup. Okay, so this would be 28 over 8, which can be reduced down to 7 over 2, and this can be reduced down to 20 over 8 or 5 over 2. It's the same setup, okay? If you guys graph this in Desmos, you would get 3.5 as a crossing point, and this would be 2.5. If you don't know your decimals and your fractions, you are going to have to solve this whole thing out to get it, or to understand the setup, okay? Where you could get 2.5, put it in decimals, hit the trick, and go. The only question is I don't know if that fraction trick exists on the AZ Merit, because I don't know what version of decimals they give you. If they give you everything, then you guys will be able to do it perfectly. Okay, so this one here, it would be 2 plus or minus the square root of 4 minus, and then it's going to be 4 times 3 times negative 9. All over 6. So 2 plus or minus square root, that would be, so I'm going to multiply that out. It would be negative 4 times 3 times negative 9, and then it's going to be plus 4, it's going to be 112. So this is going to be 112 over 6. Now, question is what can you take out of 112? Can you take, remember we talked about looking for 4, 9, 16. Let me see if I can do any of those. So 112 divided by 4, I get 28, not bad. 112 divided by 9 is a nope. 112 divided by 16 is 7. Ooh, so I can split this. So it'd be 2 plus or minus square root of 16 times the square root of 7 all over 6. All right, and then you can simplify it down again. So it would be 2 plus or minus 4 times the square root of 7 all over 6. And then can you simplify this? The question and answer would be yes, you could. Okay, you could divide a 2 out of all of these. So this would be 1 plus or minus 2 all over. There's your answer. Same thing. Graph it in Desmos. If you graph it in Desmos, you have no idea what this is, but you could get the decimal point and then compare the answer to make sure you get the same thing. What we're going to finish in class is we're going to talk a little bit about this end sheet. The back of this lesson talks about, now that we've known all these things, how do you want to solve it? Okay, do you want to use the quadratic formula, complete the square, using square roots, graphing, or factoring? Okay, use approximate solution if sufficient. Most of you are going to choose this option right here. Okay, some of you will choose completing the square when it asks you to. This is the main key thing, okay? The biggest and easiest ones to do, technically speaking, would be graphing and then the quadratic formula. Can you factor? Most of you can. This is easy as well. I would say if I were to go to orders, I would say see if you can factor it first. If not, graph it. If you graph it and you get a point that's an approximation and you need an exact, go quadratic. I would skip these two if possible. All right, so here's what we worked on in class, okay? What we're going to try to do is complete the square on these. See if you can factor them out. One big key problem is that when we go through these, is understanding that, yes, we can rewrite some of these, but a lot of these can be answered basically by doing perfect squares or factoring out. And so I'm just going to kind of shoot through the breeze on this to see if I can do these or not. This is going to be really interesting. All right, so I'm just going to, this first one right here, I could probably factor it, but I'm just going to use the quadratic method. So knowing that, this first one here, I'm just going to use the quadratic, so it'd be 3x squared minus 5x minus 12 equals 0. Okay, so my A is going to be 3, my B is going to be negative 5, my C is going to be negative 12. Is there another way I could probably do this? Yeah, but the quadratic equation will work on everything, so I'm just going to use the quadratic formula right now, and we'll go from there. So knowing that, remember it's going to be negative B plus or minus b squared minus 4ac divided by 2a. I could use this formula on all three of these if I chose to, because I can, because that's the formula that you can do. I'll do it on this first one. Trying to see if I should do it on the second one. I'm probably not. What's ironic is this one and this one look a lot alike, but so maybe I could get a key answer off that. I probably can't, but we'll see. All right, so let's work on this. So my B value is going to be 5 plus or minus, and then it's going to be 25 minus 4 times 3 times 12, okay, all over 6. Then you get a calculator out. All right, on my calculator, I would put, so that's why we're going to use the quadratic formula a lot on these. I go negative 4 times 3, and then multiply that by 12, and I get negative 44. So I know this is going to be 5 plus or minus 25 minus 144 over 6. Simplify it again, so let me add 25 to it. So I know I'm going to have 5 plus or minus the square root of 119 over 6. Now I have a strong feeling there's probably a better way of doing this, but oh well. All right, so 119, so that's a weird number. Let me see here. Square root of 119, can I do that? Nope, it's a decimal. So let me see, can I take, so my perfect squares are 4, 9, 16, and 20, wait, this would be 2, 3, 4, 5 is 25. Okay, so, and then there is, of course, 36. So let me see if 119 will go in any of these. Divided by 4, nope. 119 divided by 9, nope. 119 divided by 16, nope. 119 divided by, I know 25 isn't 1, 36, nope. So 119 divided by 49, I get a reduction, but nothing crazy. So here's the key factor for this one. This would be probably graphing it and doing an approximation, because my answer is going to be 5 plus or minus square root of 119 over 6. So this will be an approximation. All right? Sweet, I'm done. I'm not going to answer it. That's my answer. I'm going with it, and yeehaw to that one. Same thing over here. Okay, you probably could look at it, and let me graph this one. So on this one on Desmos, it'd be, let's turn this off. It's going to be 3x squared. And then it says it's plus 5x minus 12. Oh, look, this one's got one perfect and one not. So let's look at that. That makes me wonder, what is this one? If I go minus. Oh, yeah. Huh, weird. I must have done it wrong. Oh, well. So, one of the key aspects is making sure that as we go along, and I probably messed that up, but that's okay. Graphing it, setting it up. So I know on this one, my other answer, if this is plus, whoops. All right, so 3x squared plus 5x minus 12 equals 0. So I know 1 point is 3. This is 1 1/3. So I know my x is -3, and 1 1/3 would be 4/3. I know that's that one. All right, this one right here, I could factor out a 5 from both sides. So if I go 10x squared minus 5x plus 25, all right, question is if I factor out a 5, then I'd be left with 2x squared minus x, and then it's going to be plus 5. Is that a perfect square? Let me see here, 10, 5, let me see, 10 and 2. I'm not sure if it is or not. So you could do some more work on it, but that's what we're going to be kind of doing and going over in class, okay, is making sure that, seeing if we can answer these and what's the best way. Most of the time it's going to be graphing, okay? There's another section here. I'd probably end up graphing that one. And then there's one more here that talks about finding the skill set and knowing which one you would do. I'd use probably, see if I could do this factoring on this one. I think this one looks like it could factor. That's the way it looks. This one here is a little funky. Probably need to use the quadratic. So this one would be negative b plus or minus b squared minus 4ac over 2a. That looks like this one. And this one here, probably around the same thing, okay? Could graph it, see if you get an approximation. If not, then go from there, okay? It's been kind of a long day, so sorry that last half of the lesson was kind of short-lived. Graph them and see what you get. If you get whole numbers, congratulations, you did it. This one here, I'm pretty sure is not a whole number, so you'd want me to give you the